And so, just as I had escaped imprisonment by my family's rival noble house, I was torn from my plane of existence by wild magic, forever transported from the Feywild to this material plane. Daily, my heart yearns for my lost love, Lurna Herdad, and my one goal in life is to find my way back to her, whether that is by magical power or abundant coin. So, Bard, tell me, how did you end up as a wayward adventurer? Oh, honestly, I haven't really thought about that yet. Oh, come on, no need to be modest. I'm sure you have an amazing story that details you flourishing from a humble ukulele plucker to a traveller extraordinaire. Where did you study? Don't we pick that at level 3? Fine, whatever. What about you?
I'm a warforged.
Hello, adventurer. If you have any relationship with Dungeons & Dragons character creation, you're probably well versed in the ritual of picking a class, species, and then conversing with your friends on how to balance the party. That stuff is mainly self-evident, and if you do want a walkthrough, one is available via this link. Really though, you want to create someone who resonates both as a party member and with yourself, as well as fitting into the particular story your Dungeon Master is weaving. This video is all about crafting a character you'll enjoy contemplating, interacting with, and most importantly, playing. We're going to look in depth at the creative processes of fantasy writing and character creation as a whole, using media tropes and even Jungian archetypes to uncover the foundations of compelling characters. So, by the end of this video, you'll have so much more than just a name, stats, and a collection of loot on a sheet of paper, but instead a character you understand inside and out, with depth, personality, and a place in the party and the larger story world. Ready? Let's roll. Part 1. Building a role for the party and story world. Dungeons & Dragons isn't just about your character, it's also about how they fit into a group. I know I say this in every video, but D&D is fundamentally about teamwork. If everybody else is playing spellcasters, maybe you need to step in this time and play a melee fighter, or maybe a party of chaotic murder hobos needs to be balanced by a righteous cleric. This goes the same for background and alignment. If you're joining a party of nobles, maybe a local hero might save a social encounter. Try to contemplate the group's dynamics. Do they need a leader, facilitating and assisting the team in making a cohesive plan? They could need a mediator or a middle person if there is a divide in the species, backgrounds, or social or religious classes. Sometimes a group needs a wildcard, someone to instigate a scenario which will compel the plot forward. Try and avoid stepping on other characters' toes though. Don't deliberately ruin a plan just because that's what my character would do. Talk over this during a session 0 with your party to see if they would be comfortable, and then try to use dice rolls to randomise the character's actions. Similarly, if someone else is playing a charismatic bard, maybe your warlock leans into brooding mysticism instead. Also, your character doesn't stop in the needs of the party. Think about your character's place in the world your Dungeon Master has created or is navigating for you all. Are you indigenous to the world, having been shaped by its culture and conflicts? Or are you an outsider, like a cowboy wandering into a strange town? If your DM's world is a war-torn kingdom, your character might be a refugee or a soldier grappling with the emotional, or even physical, scars of battle. This is where the true collaboration between yourself and your Dungeon Master comes into play. You need to contemplate about the questions you want to ask them, as if you start searching online about the campaign, you may accidentally come across spoilers. If this is a homebrew world, your DM is usually the sole facilitator of all the world building information, so it might be good to ask for a summary, or to talk it over during a session 0, so you can inspire each other. This will help situate your character's backstory within the setting, making everything feel so much more cohesive. After all, your character shouldn't exist in a vacuum. They're not only part of a team, but part of a whole world. Part 2. Questioning your character. When you begin creating your backstory, you should think of your character as a question. Who are they? What do they want? What drives them forward? And what holds them back? These can be inspired by the personality traits, ideals, bonds and flaws you've already chosen whilst creating your character sheet. You don't need to write a novel, just a paragraph or two that answers these key questions. Where are they from? This is your character's roots. Did they grow up in a bustling city, a secluded monastery, or even a pirate ship? What do they want? This is their motivation. Are they seeking revenge, redemption, or simply a better life? Why did they leave? Something pushed them out of their comfort zone. What was that? Maybe they were banished, or perhaps they chose to leave. in search of glory and fortune. The secret sauce here is to sprinkle in contradictions. A noble warrior could have secretly failed those closest to them. A pious paladin could have lost their temper to their detriment. Complexity helps make characters unique and unforgettable. To further expand upon these, the questions don't need to become overtly complicated. Maybe your character's question is simply, can I learn to protect the people I love no matter the cost? Or can I become more than the mistakes I've previously made? A strong question gives your character a purpose and something to strive for during the campaign. Part 3. Character tropes and why they resonate. Why do characters like Robin Hood, King Arthur, or Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name resonate with us so deeply? It's because they embody timeless tropes that reflect universal struggles. Once you've pinpointed what resonates with you personally, you can then ask yourself how you can reinterpret that for your own D&D character. Maybe your ranger isn't just a tracker, they're also a reluctant leader, like Aragorn. Or your rogue has a code of honour, even while stealing, just like Han Solo. It's not about simply copying, it's about finding what resonates with you. To uncover this further, we can look at the underlying fundamental patterns of character motifs throughout media and history. This is best explained by Jungian archetypes, envisioned by the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. These archetypes resonate with us because they tap into universal human experiences. Some of these timeless personality patterns are the hero, a motif based around overcoming obstacles and achieving certain goals, personified by a virtuous paladin; the shadow, embodying the hidden, repressed and unresolved aspects of our being, like a cursed warlock or a rogue desperately trying to escape their criminal past; and the sage, a pursuit of knowledge, wisdom and the truth, perfectly personified by the wizard class. Is your character a rebel, pushing boundaries and fighting against injustice? Or maybe a caregiver, healing and supporting others? These are best further explained by well-known personifications in media. Robin Hood is the rebel archetype. He fights injustice with wit and courage, representing hope and defiance. Maybe your character challenges authority in their own way, a druid defying the industrial expansion, or a bard rallying oppressed townsfolk via a musical medium. King Arthur is a noble leader. Arthur's legends revolve around duty, loyalty and sacrifice. A paladin or cleric might draw upon this trope, torn between their ideals and the cost of upholding them. Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name is an anti-hero. This archetype thrives on moral ambiguity, making tough choices in a brutal world. Think of a ranger or rogue who avoids attachment but can't help doing the right thing when it matters. Whilst creating your character sheet, these tropes are best embodied by your class, background and characteristics. For example, the local hero background blends well into the everyman archetype, whilst most stereotypical bards embody the attributes of the jester. The trick, though, isn't to choose one archetype, it's to layer them. The most interesting characters straddle two archetypes. For instance, Robin Hood is a non-conforming rebel and a sage, seeking wisdom to guide his rebellion. A flawed hero can begin to doubt themselves, embodying aspects of the skeptic. By combining tropes, you create contradictions and they make your character feel more real. Maybe they justify their crimes with noble intentions, but guilt secretly eats away at them. Perhaps they're drawn to dictatorial power, despite their desire to listen to others. These archetypes are building blocks, not a strict blueprint, and those nebulous aspects make characters enjoyable to interact with. These nuances create tension, drama, and excellent roleplay opportunities. They'll make for unforgettable moments in-game, like when your reckless barbarian finally learns restraint, or your cagey druid opens up to the group. These tropes aren't cliches, they're shorthand for themes we all understand. By reinterpreting them, you can create a character who feels timeless yet fresh. Part 4. The Monomyth. Drawing inspiration from the ancient past. Here's a little secret for you. Every great character borrows something from a work or story from beforehand. Take a moment to think about your favourite characters in books, movies and TV shows. What makes them compelling? Is it Aragorn's reluctant leadership? The sacrifice of Vax or Vox Machina? Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, or the Monomyth, is the background of countless stories. Whilst your D&D campaign isn't scripted, understanding the structure can help you create a character with room to grow. The basic framework is the call to adventure. Why has your character left their old life? Were they pushed by circumstance, like Bilbo Baggins, or did they choose to leave, like Moana? The threshold. This is where your character enters the unknown. the dangerous, magical world where the adventure takes place. The trials. These are the battles, puzzles, and dilemmas they'll face during the campaign. Each trial should challenge their beliefs and force growth. The transformation. Who do they become by the end of their journey? You can use the Monomyth as a lens to create a backstory and goals. A knight seeking redemption might be on a transformative arc, whilst a cynical bounty hunter could learn to care for others over time. The arc doesn't need to be complete at the start. That is what the campaign is for. To contextualise this around the campaign you're joining, it's best to instill this into the instigating circumstances or the call to adventure of the story. Your DM will likely share an event or location where the story begins, and will collaborate with you on how your characters found themselves there. If we were to view this through the perspective of a hero's journey, this could be viewed as the call to adventure, or in other words, the first 20 minutes of every single action film you've ever seen. This leads back to the questions to ask yourself at the beginning of character creation, and also the fact that your character is not a static object, but a person whose objectives and morals may fluctuate depending on the circumstances. Remember that your character is so much more than just a conduit for you to roll dice for, but is someone who is attempting to navigate a magical but dangerous world. Fair enough, you also have the other players and their characters to consider, and the DM may control a lot of the overarching plot elements, but you can still implement the concept of the hero's journey or Dan Harmon's story circle to ensure your character is three-dimensional and organically driven. As you progress through the campaign, the events, encounters, and challenges your character faces should mould them, changing them fundamentally from who they were at the start of the story. The best tales resolve in a sacrifice. This is evidenced in the Critical Role Vox Machina campaign, Grand Theft Auto 5, and even the Bible. Although this seems counterintuitive to enjoyment, losing something or someone along the way raises the stakes and has a holistic emotional impact, as opposed to a "and they all lived happily ever after" ending. Basically, a D&D character shouldn't be static. They should grow, change, and react to the world around them. Maybe your righteous paladin starts to question their faith after a devastating failure, or your self-centered rogue discovers a reluctant friendship. Considering you are the one controlling this character, try to empathise with their situation, as this is where the magic happens. You'll learn things about your character and yourself that you didn't expect when you started, and those moments, they'll stick with you and your party long after the campaign ends. The point is, your character is not built once you've finished picking spells, they'll continually evolve. Part 5. Psychology and Role-Playing. Now, after rambling on about myths and ancient archetypes, it's time to get psychological. Your character's personality, ideals, bonds and flaws, as well as their alignment, are great starting points in navigating their larger psychology. These can be further helped by categorizing tools like the Big 5 personality traits or the MBTI, which can help flesh out your character's inner workings. As well as those on your character sheet, you should also consider these additional dimensions. Openness. Are they curious and imaginative, or are they more practical and grounded? Conscientiousness. Do they plan every move, or charge in without thinking? Extroversion. Do they thrive in social settings, or prefer solitude? Maslow's hierarchy of needs can also be implemented to understand your character's deeper motivations. Are they at the bottom of the pyramid, solely focused on survival, like a wandering mercenary? Or are they on the cusp of self-actualization, like an aspiring wizard seeking ultimate knowledge? Perceiving these traits, archetypes and tropes through a psychological lens can further assist in creating a character who feels truly multidimensional. This leads into the practical, overtly fun, and principal element of TTRPGs, role-playing. Once you know who your character is, you can then think about how that would make them act. Do they speak with a drawl, gesture wildly, or stay eerily still? Are they accustomed to shouting over the drunken chatter of a pirate ship? Or when going over a plan, do they begin to mumble to themselves, lost in thought? Maybe they compulsively carve wood when nervous, or collect souvenirs from every town. Perhaps they have a nonsensical ritual they often perform, like knocking twice on the mantle of a doorway before entering. Are they cautious or impulsive? Do they stick to the rules or break them when it suits them? Perhaps this even changes based on the company they keep, forgoing alcohol in front of the cleric, whilst later sneaking off to the tavern with the rogue. If you're shy about role-playing, don't worry. You can implement your own self-consciousness into your character, making them reserved whilst you find your feet. You can also start small. Pick one defining trait to lean into to begin with. Maybe your bard loves the spotlight, or your druid is deeply curious about people. As the campaign goes on, you will naturally find their voice. So, adventurer, you're now ready to craft a character who is so much more than just numbers on a page. Whether you're crafting a fearless warrior, a cunning trickster, or a compassionate healer, let their questions guide them, let their quirks make them memorable, and most of all, let them grow. Armed with the archetypes, tropes, and storytelling tools we've spoken about, you can now craft a character who is not just numbers on a page, but someone who lives, breathes, and most importantly, grows. Remember, Dungeons & Dragons isn't just a game, it's collaborative storytelling. Just like yourself, your character is part of something much bigger, a small piece of a larger tale that you and your friends will weave together. Thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. You are a hero just for that. If this walkthrough has been at all helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave me a like and send this video to your adventuring party to help with their own character creation. If you're just starting out in D&D or you have any questions whatsoever, leave a comment. I'm sure someone in the D&D community or myself will start a dialogue with you. Also, please don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so I'm not lost in the depths of the algorithm. Finally, this video here is a walkthrough on how to create your first character sheet for D&D, whilst this video features real-world survival tips that your adventuring character will probably know to help inspire you further. Now, grab some friends, some dice, and together create an epic tale for the ages. Adventure awaits.